Okay, with SysQue version 10.0.1, we're able to push the parameters through if you created parameters and used out-of-the-box conduit. And of course, we've always been able to do it if you drew off of SysQue originally. But here's the process for doing it with out-of-the-box conduit. So I've created 4 shared parameters. I did that already across the ribbon there. So I want to bring those in to my project parameters. So I'm going to select that. I added them to the construction category so that they were easy to find. So I did a 2. Now make sure that when you bring these in that you select only conduit fittings, and conduit run. Okay. You can tell it what parameter, what group you want to put those in. For me personally, I like to put them up at the top because I don't like to search forever, where are they? Okay, so if I go and add the second one, again, shared parameters, I put them in the construction category. So if I go into here and select from, for example, as well, again, I want to make sure that conduit runs, conduit fittings are selected. Okay, and then say OK to that. Now if I draw conduit, just out of the box conduit now, so if I go to SysQue, go to Systems and go to Conduit and draw just regular out of the box conduit, nothing fancy, nothing smart, right? So if I came in here and drew conduit, and again, remember, I'm going to get those parameters assigned because I added those to conduit and conduit fittings. So it's up here at the top. The from one did not come through, so let's make sure that I did that. Okay. So now when I select that run, I've got my 2's and my froms, and I'm just going to duplicate that in the name just so it's easy to find. Okay. So before, when we selected that existing conduit or new conduit drawn out of without SysQue, say, and we went over to convert conduit. So I've got an EMT system here, and I select it and I say convert the system. Now in this new dialog box, you've got a few things going on. One is you're going to convert it to EMT, wheel and set screw in this case. Do you want to retain the existing project data? And what that means is if you set a color and a weight and a pattern and a service type to your conduit, do you want to retain that? Also, if you've added parameters to your system, do you want to retain those values as well? So if you want to retain those, click on the checkbox. The other thing we've added now is if you're doing this, say, for an entire project and you're going to be converting, you do have the option of clicking the bottom here, which says ignore this dialog box for this session, which means only while Revit is open. If you close Revit and restart it, it's going to come back and ask you for this dialog box again if you're converting. Okay. The third option you have is to just close this, say that you've not added your parameters to your system, which is what I've not done yet. And if I wanted to retain those, I need to add those to the system first. Okay, so I'm just going to say convert right now to show you what happens. So again, if I did not click on retain information, I did convert this. It went to Wheatland conduit, but you notice that my parameters got cleared out. Okay, so we want to retain those, right? That's the whole goal. We want to retain those. So if I came in here and selected this run again, I've got my parameters back. All I did was do undo. So if I come into my system now, maybe I want to make this, we'll do branch power. We'll make this blue. And down here under project data, I'm going to turn that on. And now I'm going to add parameters. So I've actually added two of those, so we're going to say to and from. And now you want to make sure the push value through the run is checked. If it's not checked, it's not going to retain that information again. Okay. So I'm going to hit save to that. And now when I convert this conduit down here, I get the same thing, but I'm going to click on retain the following information because now I want to keep those parameter values. I don't want to lose them. So when I select this entire run again, you see that my parameters kept the way they were. Now, if you add a parameter to here, but you've not added it to the conduit originally, then it's not going to show up in your list. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're apples to apples if you want them to retain into your conduit information. So for example, if I came in here and said I want to call this, parameter 5, for example, and I can do this through this dialog box or I can do it through the Revit dialog box. And I'm going to put this back in construction so that it's always at the top for me. Okay, and then again down here, one is checked, conduit is checked, but we want conduit fittings and conduit run as well for this parameter. So we can add this now, parameter 5, again, check that box. Now what if I uncheck that box, right? Then I've got to either put a value in here or a value through per size. But if I check that box, you see that automatically goes to a dash. Okay, so now if I draw directly out of SysQue, you'll see that by default, I always have those parameters, right? So if I came in here and said, now I've got 3 parameters in here. So again, if you want to make sure that they carry over, you're going to want to make sure that you answer, first of all, that you answer yes to retaining that information, right? So if I just say parameter 5 in here, and now say I went to convert this. Maybe I just didn't want the couplings, so I'm going to convert it again to get rid of the couplings, for example. So if I check this conduit, convert the system, retain that information, okay? So if I uncheck this, for example, and say convert, it's going to, replace it with the MT. Notice my parameters go away. Okay, that information was cleared out. So if I undo this again and get those back there, and now I say convert, and I retain that information, now it's going to retain the color, everything, and my parameters stay the same.